not maybe in the best way, because the way that they looked at Europe now, at least what they were hearing, was that these were a bunch of free riders who were free riding off of America's security guarantee. And remember, Trump is not the first person to say this. This is old news at this point. This goes back decades. But I think part of the reason that we have found ourselves where we are today is because America has been the ultimate guarantor of Europe's security, certainly since the end of the Cold War. And I always say that I think Joe Biden was America's last transatlantic president, not because I think that this president even, or future presidents, will abandon Europe, but Europe will not orient the U.S. president's foreign policy in the way that it has in the past ever again. I'm confident of that. I'm also confident that this administration stands by its Article 5 agreements, but I'm also confident that after we finish the Global Force Posture Review and after we finish the National Defense Strategy, we will orient troops away from Europe, and Europe has to be ready for that. And I think Europe is preparing for that in the best way that they can.
And just briefly, before we focus back on the summit and a little bit of a look ahead, I get a sense that when you hear Rachel talking about the perception in the US being that there's potentially a lot of free riders over here, piggybacking the security that the US offers, do we, to an extent, does NATO or the government over here, European governments, do we need to also be worried about US public perception of
well, there's only so much that we can do to influence U.S. public perception. That's mainly up to the U.S. administration to work on that perception. But what we can do is show how vital it is in a more multipolarized world that you have friends. And Europe is the U.S.'s best friend, I would still say, economically, where we have the largest economic ties between our two continents, on values, where we share the democratic values that we've upheld for the past 75 years. And now we will also become militarily more useful partners. And so I think we need to balance that out. And then I would say it is totally in the U.S. interest to keep NATO as it is.
Yeah, it was that, in particular, that last point. I don't get that something that's missing from the media narrative at any rate seems to be the benefit to the U.S. of this NATO alliance. The fact that foreign policy here is often crafted almost entirely in the shadow of U.S. foreign policy. So I feel like that's a message that could be ramped up.
Well, thanks for the advice.
We're ramping it up. No, but I mean, do you agree?
No, I agree. I think we've been working in stovepipes. So on the economical side, we've been in a competition mode. On the military side, we've been absent on the U.S. side and relying totally on the U.S. On values, we've been aligned. But those things now all need to even out. So it's one package. You need to be on the same page in economic, in trade, in a military cooperation, in the values that you want to project outside of your own territory. And that's what friends do. And we can no longer work from those in different silos. I think that's where we need to get.
All right. OK, we're moving towards the tail end.